Inferno is the first big real X-Men crossover event, crossing over Uncanny X-Men, X-Factor, and New Mutants, with a tie-in from the recently created Excalibur. It is the culmination of events that started with Illyana's kidnapping by Belasco in Uncanny X-Men 160, and Madelyn Pryor's introduction in 167, nearly 70 issues ago, and everything after Fall of the Mutants is just lead up to this event. The three main series are also broken up by the Evolutionary War crossover in their annuals, so I'll be tackling each series up to the annuals, then after, and then finally Inferno. One last note, while at least one story in Marvel Comics Presents features the X-Men each issue, they are inconsequential overall, so I'll be ignoring them. With that out of the way, let's go. As a brief recap, the X-Men and Cyclops' estranged wife Madelyn Pryor sacrificed themselves to stop the adversary at Forge's behest, but were saved by the goddess Roma and sent to Australia. The New Mutants lost one of their own with the death of Doug and decided to become real heroes, while X-Factor saved Manhattan from Apocalypse and outed themselves as mutants, becoming heroes in the process. Unfortunately for them, Beast is turning into an idiot and Angel has become the Angel of Death and gone rogue. The best series to start with is New Mutants, which kicks off this era with a solo issue about Amara getting together with the Abhorrent empath now that she's left the New Mutants. Issue 63 sees Illyana suffer a hallucination where she saves the X-Men from the Brood, then decides to get revenge on Forge, the person she believes to have killed the X-Men in Fall of the Mutants, which he kind of did, although it's not really his fault. It's also unclear if this dream is a dream or if it actually happened with some clones, which is kind of cool. Warlock then tries to resurrect Doug Ramsey, which goes about as well as you'd expect, and the issue ends with a proper funeral for the first really dead New Mutant. It's a good sentimental issue, giving even more weight to Doug's death and really setting up the tone for the next few arcs. The first of these sees Illyana actually try to kill Forge in Limbo, unleashing the demon inside her to do so and giving Sim even more power, kicking off her descent to the Dark Child. She also gets a warning from Freedom Force's Destiny that she has to leave Earth or risk destroying it. Illyana ultimately decides not to kill Forge, but it's too late at that point, as the darkness has already begun to grow within her. Uncanny X-Men kicks off with another non-sequitur in issue 228, featuring a flashback where Dazzler and Wolverine save one of Dazzler's exes from government assassins. 229 and 230 see the X-Men battle and defeat the cybernetic Reavers with ruthlessly efficiency, ejecting them from their Outback base and claiming it as their own. They also meet the mute Aboriginal Mutant Gateway, who can create gateways and always seems to know where the X-Men want to go. Colossus then gets to help out Illyana when she tries to summon a ghost of him to fight Sim, but the real Colossus shows up instead. He lends Illyana a hand, gives her a touching speech about not giving up, and heads back home without ever telling her that he's alive. I know the X-Men are hiding the fact that they're alive so the Marauders don't kill everyone, but it's just so stupid. They should at least tell the New Mutants, who are effectively their proteges, and Illyana's Colossus' sister. Stupid plot convolutions aside, issues 232, 233, and 234 see the X-Men rematch the Brood, who are infecting mutants to try and capture the X-Men and take over the planet. In a stark contrast to God Loves Man Kills, where Reverend tries to kill all mutants, here a priest helps the X-Men save people from the Brood, making for one of the better X-Men arcs of this era. The last series to check in on is X-Factor, which is back to its usual melodramatic self after the bolt of brilliance with Fall of the Mutants. Issue 27 has the team just celebrate Christmas with Manhattan, and while issue 28 is an important one, it is all set up. Cyclops learns that Nathan is alive, Angel of Death finds that his girlfriend Candy has been kidnapped by the militaristic right, and X-Factor's ship nearly explodes but is saved by the trainees. The series then spends 3 whole issues on Infectia, who is a woman who kisses people and gives them mutant powers for a day before the transformation kills them. She tries to seduce Iceman to steal X-Factor's ship, but Beast, the only one who knows the truth, keeps getting in the way, annoying Iceman. Iceman is also ignoring Beast because he's an idiot now, but Beast saves Iceman anyways, gets kissed by Infectia, and goes into a coma. Infectia is defeated, though. X-Factor then fights 2 alien clones of the Avengers in issue 32, which is kind of fun, but pointless. 2 people, an egg-looking robot called Nanny, and a dude in power armor called Orphan Maker are also kidnapping children. Keep an eye out for them. This brings us to Evolutionary War, a crossover that ran in all of Marvel's annuals that year, but features an individual story in each issue. The connective tissue is the presence of the High Evolutionary, but each issue can be read on its own, so I'll only be covering the X-Men annuals. First is X-Factor Annual 3, which sees Apocalypse debate the High Evolutionary on his methods of achieving the best evolution possible, while X-Factor saves some mole people from extinction at the High Evolutionary's hands. New Mutants Annual 4 is the only one that matters, as, while saving Amara from a depowering machine, Danny's powers are altered so that her mirages become reality, but she can only have one at a time, and she can only get rid of it by creating a new mirage. Uncanny X-Men Annual 12 sees the X-Men save the Savage Land from a giant robot. Even though it's not important, this issue is very fun, so that's cool. Ultimately, the Evolutionary War was a Marvel-wide marketing gimmick, and for the purposes of Claremont's X-Men, you can skip all of them except for New Mutants and won't be missing much, not even superb storylines. While we're on the topic of annuals, though, a fourth series is added to the X-Men roster in a supersized special issue, Excalibur Special Edition The Sword is Drawn. Written by Claremont and drawn by Alan Davis, this issue opens with Kitty Pryde and Nightcrawler, out of commission since the Mutant Massacre 25-odd issues ago, having nightmares about Rachel Summers, who also vanished around the same time. Together with Captain Britain and his shape-shifting magic girlfriend McGann, the two help Rachel escape from the clutches of Mojo, who is forcing her to play in demented games. After saving Rachel, the Quintet stave off Mojo's body-eating werewolves, as well as the Gatecrashers, servants of the goddess Saturnine who want Phoenix destroyed. The superheroes win, of course, and earn their right to exist as Excalibur, Britain's premier superhero team. This is a superb start to Excalibur, full of wacky fights and interesting villains, plus two of the X-Men's best characters in Nightcrawler and Kitty. It's a much more promising start than X Factor, that's for sure. Excalibur 1 picks up right where the special edition leaves off, with the werewolves quietly terrorizing Britain looking for Rachel. While Excalibur moves in Captain Britain's lighthouse, Captain Britain reunites with his old flame, Courtney Ross, straining his relationship with McGann. Kitty also decides to disguise herself as Rachel to draw out the werewolves, and succeeds in doing so, but underestimates their power and gets captured and seemingly eaten in the process. Issue 2 sees the team working with the police to hunt down Kitty, but all they find are werewolves. Fortunately, Kitty's phasing power lets her survive the transformation process, and she breaks out of the werewolves, ending their terror for the time being. Issue 3 is a downtime issue where the team has a hilariously short battle with Juggernaut, as he doesn't have his anti-psychic helmet, so Rachel just brain blasts him. Other things of note include glimpses of doppelgangers in the lighthouse, a strange robot in a warehouse abducting people, and Moira McTaggart and Callista going through a wormhole on a train and coming out as Nazis. The usual. Issue 4 and 5 see Courtney get kidnapped by Claremont's favorite random villain, and mine too, Arcade, so the team goes to save her. Courtney is pretty kick-ass too, to be honest, and Arcade's new team of lackeys are surreal and hilarious, adding a real spice that I've come to love and expect from Arcade stories. Although Arcade is defeated, all is not well, as Courtney has been secretly replaced with one of those strange doppelgangers. What does this mean? Find out way later, because it's time to return to our main theme of Misfits. Following the Evolutionary Wars, the X-Men launch into one of their most well-known standalone arcs of this era, the introduction of Genosha. From issues 235 to 238, the X-Men investigate Genosha, a paradise of an island nation that also happens to use mutants as slaves. Oops. Wolverine and Rogue get captured and temporarily lose their powers, leading to Wolverine slowly dying and Rogue being replaced with the Carol Danvers persona she stole. The two go on a Mission Impossible heist to bring down Genosha and escape, and, with the help of the X-Men and a boy whose girlfriend turned out to be a mutant, succeeded. Since the boy was also second in command, he gets to be in charge and in slavery on Genosha. It is a really good story, focusing on the most iconic theme of the X-Men and letting them play real heroes, leaving an even stronger legacy behind. Unfortunately, while the X-Men were playing heroes, Madelyn was being slowly corrupted by the demon Nastir into the Goblin Queen, even as she and Havoc slowly, and ironically, since Havoc is Madelyn's ex's brother, fall in love. The X-Men also learn about the fact that Jean is alive, and Madelyn swears to get her son back, getting everything ready for the big Inferno. It's not time yet, though, as the New Mutants and X Factor need to have some fun first. First, X Factor in a speed round because I'm not fond of this trio of issues. They just don't really add much and seem contrived to get the plot and characters where they need to be. Issue 33, Beast gets his fur back and X Factor fights the role of the Alliance of Evil. How did Beast get his fur and intelligence back? Infectious kiss, for reasons. Issue 34, Angel fights Hodge over Candy. Hodge escapes. Candy dies. It's just an excuse to let Angel rejoin X Factor. Issue 35, remember Nanny and Orphan Maker? Well, they, X Factor, and Nastir's demons all go to the same orphanage to get Nathan Summers, who succeeds the demons, thanks to Nanny and Orphan Maker distracting X Factor. Well, they're all set up for Inferno now, so it's New Mutants time. They team up with an alien named Gossamer, who seems to have the power to make men fall in love with her, in order to save Gossamer's family and Sam's girlfriend Layla from the evil alien crime lord Spider. They do their best, but Gossamer's presence tears the team apart, and Illyana retreats into herself, fearful of becoming the demon she is destined to become. To make matters worse, people of Gossamer's race can mutate into planet eaters, which Spider is making them do, so Layla sacrifices herself to teleport them all into a star, saving the galaxy. The New Mutants let Gossamer stay with them as they plan to return home via Limbo. But once Illyana takes the team inside, Sim is there, ready to kill them all and become Limbo's one true ruler. It's almost Inferno time, but first we have a small bit of prelude. The first of these is X-Terminators, a 4-issue miniseries starring X-Factor's wards that basically just serves to give them something to do during Inferno, despite largely taking place before the main action. Well, except for issue 4, but we'll get to that. The first 3 issues see the team attend boarding school, where they meet the wheelchair mutant Whiz Kid, who can manipulate electronics. Artie and Leech end up being kidnapped by some demons working for Nastir, as Nastir wants babies to power his limbo portal and his minions are idiots. The rest of X-Factor's wars brand themselves the Exterminators and team up with WizKid to rescue Artie and Leech and find themselves in the middle of Manhattan, smack in the middle of Inferno. These first 3 issues are pretty fun, but largely irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, and even just within Inferno, although they play an important role later. My favorite part is how the kids named themselves after X-Factor's old mutant codenames, Exterminators, which really goes to show how X-Factor has influenced their words. Next up is Uncanny X-Men issue 240, which sees the team confront the Marauders for revenge. They do a pretty bang-up job, too, before both teams wind up in a completely demonized Manhattan, where the Empire State Building has grown massive and all the inanimate objects have come to life to eat people. Meanwhile, Madelyn transforms Jean's parents into demons and orders Nastia to bring her son lest he face her wrath. Nastia replies by bringing her to Mr. Sinister, who reveals himself to be Madelyn's father. As it turns out, Mr. Sinister was making clones of Jean Grey to try and create the ultimate mutant child between Jean and Cyclops, and when Dark Phoenix died on the moon, a piece of it was released and entered into Madelyn, bringing her to life. With no memories, she received a traumatic origin reminiscent of the Phoenix's own, Madelyn's plane crash mirroring Jean's space shuttle crash, and given a subconscious drive to mate with Cyclops. In response, Madelyn blows up Sinister's lab and vows to destroy her baby as a final spite to Cyclops and Sinister. Meanwhile, the X-Men find a familiar face as Colossus leaves to go help Illyana. The funny thing about Madelyn is that she was just intended to be Cyclops' wife, an excuse to write him out of X-Men without killing him off. But when Marvel dictated that Jean came back and Cyclops had to join X-Factor, Claremont conceived of this wacky plot with Madelyn, turning her into a villain and making her a literal clone of Jean, letting her existence be almost fake and solidifying Jean as Cyclops' one true love. It's an interesting twist for the character, but it really works super well in the long run considering how unplanned it was. Now that Inferno is set up, there are 2 main storylines, the New Mutants plot and the X-Men X-Factor plot. I think the most logical one to do first is New Mutants, so we'll start there, with New Mutants number 71. Inside Limbo, the New Mutants battle Sim and don't do so hot, with Sim pretty much coming out on top. Illyana reiterates how absolutely terrible her childhood in Limbo was before Nastia shows up and makes a deal with her to defeat Sim in exchange for opening a portal to Earth. Despite her friend's protests, Illyana agrees, kicking Limbo off in earnest as demons rain from the sky. The New Mutants do everything they can to keep people safe and stop the Demon City, but are sorely outmatched. They notice that the babies in the sky are powering the portal, so they team up with the Exterminators to save the babies, as well as destroy the machine Nastia is using to power it. Illyana also goes through her own personal hell in Manhattan, going slowly mad as she considers herself more and more of a monster, even contemplating destroying herself to end Inferno. Meanwhile, the Exterminators number 4 runs alongside this issue, and sees the Exterminators destroy Nastia's machine while Nastia infects himself with Sim's techno-organic virus, setting up a 3-way power struggle between himself, Sim, and Illyana in the finale. New Mutants 73, the last issue of this side of Inferno, is a double-sized feature packed with great character moments for Illyana, Rain, and Colossus. As Colossus fights through to save his sister, Illyana decides that the only thing she can do is become the rightful ruler of Limbo, a demon in her own right, damning everything. Left with no other option, Rain uses Limbo's natural teleportation discs to go back in time and grab Kitty Illyana from when she first came to Limbo, presenting her to the demonic teenage Illyana. Illyana immediately tries to kill her younger self, but Rain convinces her that she has a choice to damn herself in the world or to save it. Moved by Rain's innocence, Illyana sacrifices herself to destroy the portal, sending all the demons back to Limbo and seemingly destroying them, leaving her innocent younger self behind as a parting gift, letting her live the childhood she was meant to have. It's a beautiful end to one of my favorite Inferno issues and one of my favorite arcs from Claremont's time on X-Men. It really brings everything together, with Illyana finally overcoming her inner demons and being the child she was always meant to be, along with Rain finally accepting Illyana as a friend after rejecting her for her demonness for 60 issues. It's just so good. Meanwhile, Excalibur is here. Called over to Manhattan by baby Nathan, the team struggles against demons as Captain Britain and Megan are corrupted into evil versions of themselves and forced to fight Kitty in a theater show, with Kitty using a manifestation of Illyana's soul sword to break the spell. Nightcrawler is incorruptible as ever, even in a demon land full of people that look like him, and he works with a straight-up gargoyle to free Rachel from being turned into a statue. It's a fun two-parter that really leads into the wacky side of Inferno, and it's a nice refresher from all the seriousness. For X-Factor issues 36 and 37, the team really just contends with Inferno before finally running into Madelyn and Nastia and giving them a good fight before the X-Men show up at the end of 37. A classic misunderstanding occurs, fueled by Inferno's rage-inducing effect, and the X-Men and X-Factor fight, and are actually fairly even. X-Factor also gets help by Angel, who really comes in clutch during this fight. The two teams then go after Madelyn and Nastia, with them managing to destroy Nastia fairly easily, all things considered. Jean and Madelyn then clash telepathically, 2 sides of the same coin, both powered by the Phoenix. In the end, Jean's friends help her come out on top, saving Nathan and Jean's parents, ending Inferno for good. But there's one loose end to tie up, Mr. Sinister. Uncanny X-Men 243 and X-Factor 39 see the two teams confront Mr. Sinister at the abandoned X-Mansion, that Sinister has made his base, smashing through another round of Marauders before confronting Sinister himself, his telekinetic skills making him more than a match for the massive roster. He also reveals that he orchestrated Cyclops' life, sending him to the orphanage to mine him for his genes. The whole thing feels like a commentary on eugenics, which it very well could be. The two teams eventually work together to destroy Mr. Sinister, seemingly for good, and the two teams part as friends. The issue ends with Cyclops and Jean promising to raise Nathan together, providing a nice end to what I consider to be the weaker half of Inferno. The inter-team conflicts feel fairly artificial, granted they actually are. The big fight with Jean and Madelyn is super good and is what I consider this half of Inferno's climax, with the Sinister stuff mostly tacked on for continuity. It does do a great job of wrapping up all the dangling plot threads that have formed since X-Factor's inception, making this a great end to an overall okay era. Well, I say end, but there is a bit of epilogue to wrap up a couple more stories. First, in New Mutants 74, they buy an X-Factor's ship with the Exterminators, but the ship imprisons Gossamer because of her species. In a very un-X-Men-like move, Gossamer decides to leave the team so she doesn't hurt them anymore, blasting off into space never to be seen again. That's right, Gossamer shows up for one arc, stays through freaking Inferno, and then leaves. I have nothing else to say. Issue 75 sees the team return to the ruined X-Mansion, where they are also confronted by the Hellfire Club. Magneto, Emma, and Selene kick out Sebastian Shaw, and the New Mutants quit the school, leaving Magneto to his own devices and the New Mutants to their own. All of their arcs from the Mutant Massacre are finally wrapped up, and with Magneto's tenure as headmaster over, the New Mutants can get a fresh start for the next big era. After that, Excalibur spends some time in New York in Excalibur number 8, and Brian and McGann decide to get over their fighting. Back to Britain for next time. Finally, X-Factor number 40 sees the team mourn Madelyn before confronting Nanny and Orphan Maker one last time, rescuing Jean's nieces and defeating the child-napping duo, ending all of their dangling threats for the end of this era of X-Men. Realistically, Inferno and its epilogue serve to wrap up all of the plot threads from the beginning of X-Factor, and you could say the Mutant Massacre and even some farther back ones like Illyana and Madelyn. This whole trio of eras feels rushed in my opinion, though, as if things are just moving from one big crossover to the next, with no time for any natural development or meaningful interactions between the characters. The sprawl of it all doesn't help either, so it might be a better read if you just focus on one book, like New Mutants. I think that this is the worst general set of X-Men stories since Claremont started writing, though Inferno is an improvement over the Mutant Massacre and Fall of the Mutant sections, with stories like Broodfall and Genosha. However, the New Mutant stories keep getting better, and X-Factor never gets as bad as it did when it started, although it still peaked with Fall of the Mutants, like New Mutants. Excalibur is also great, as it's fun to see Kitty and Nightcrawler back in action after their hiatus, and they get to be more fun like they're meant to be, instead of matching the dark and dreary tones of the main X-Men book. Excalibur is probably the best thing to come from the Inferno section, which is definitely saying something since it's the most spin-offy of the X-Men books. I still love Inferno, Fall of the Mutants, these characters in these books, but this last set of eras has definitely been a low point in Claremont's X-Men run, dipping the lowest between Mutant Massacre and Fall of the Mutants. This is the end of Claremont's main time with the X-Men books, although there is still quite a bit to go. However, this is a great ending point, and the remainder is basically an epilogue and a slow slide into the convoluted 90s. I'm not sure if I'll cover it, but if I do, be prepared for X-Factor becoming even more of a soap opera while the X-Men and New Mutants collapse simultaneously. Ooh boy.